Hey guys, glad you're here for the help video for quiz 2.11. Alright, so here's your need to know info. This is a lot of the same stuff from quiz 2.10. You need to know your units. So area is units squared, volume is units cubed, and perimeter is just plain old units. And then you also need to know when you're dealing with similar figures mean you have a scale factor. You're multiplying it by something to make it bigger or smaller. If you want to compare perimeters, you set up the ratio and set it equal to the scale factor. If you want to compare volumes, you set up your ratio and set it equal to the scale factor. Not volume, I mean area. Set the area equal to the scale factor squared, because that's the units we use with area. And for volume, you would set up your ratio and set it equal to the scale factor cubed, because that is our units for volume. And lastly, you need to know the volume of a prism is just the area of the base times the height. There's a couple examples here, but all you need to remember is that it's the area of the base times the height. Alright, so the first quiz question. A triangle with an area of 3 millimeters squared is dilated by a scale factor of 6. What is the area of the dilated triangle? Okay, well the important thing to note here is we're dealing with area. And the units for area is units squared. So we're going to take our scale factor and we're going to make sure that we square it. Now I'll go ahead and plug it into your formula that you have so that you can see what it looks like. But I don't always use my formula, I have to confess. So if we start with an area of 3, that's going to be our starting area. That's our pre-image. So that's going to go on the bottom. We don't know the image area. That's what we're trying to find. So we're going to let that be x. And that's going to equal the scale factor squared. So the scale factor squared is 36. And from here you can put a 1 under your fraction and cross multiply. So 1 times x is x. 36 times 3 is 108. That is going to be your new area. Let's check out this one. It says a triangle with an area of 2/3 centimeters squared is dilated by a scale factor of 6. What is the area of the dilated triangle? Alright, so again we're dealing with area, so we know our units are squared, which means I have to square my scale factor. And then I'll go ahead and plug it into my formula. The pre-image area is 2/3. We don't know the image area, so we're going to let that be x. And that's going to equal 6 squared. So 2/3 over x equals 36. Then we can cross multiply. Okay, so before I cross multiply, I totally just realized my mistake. Do you guys see my mistake here? Whew, the mistakes happen all the time. If I start with this area, that's not my image area. That is my pre-image area. And notice I put it on the top. Oopsie poopsies. So that was a mistake. Don't do that on your quiz. 2/3 is the pre-image. That's what we start with. So that should be on the bottom. Let me fix that before we go on. I was just about to cross multiply when I realized that didn't make any sense. And if you do happen to make a mistake like that, like I was about to do, it'll be pretty obvious when you get your answer, and I'll show you what I mean by that in just a second. But if we multiply 2/3, let me do this real quick, times 36, we get 24 as our final answer. So the new area is going to be 24 units squared. But if you had accidentally set up your proportion like I did, and you had it backwards, you would get some teeny tiny number. I think it was like 1/54. And think about this. We're taking our area and we're dilating it by a scale factor of 6. So we're making the side length 6 times bigger. So if we're making them 6 times bigger, there's no way your new area can be smaller than your original area. So that's another way you can catch yourself in case you set up your fraction incorrectly, like I just did. Alright, so let's go to the next quiz question. It says a prism with a volume of 450 feet cubed is dilated by a scale factor of 2. What is the volume of the dilated prism? Okay, so now we're not dealing with area, we're dealing with volume. And we need to remember that volume is units cubed. So I know I'm going to take my scale factor and cube it. All right, so let's go ahead and set up our fraction. Our original volume is our pre-image volume, so it's going to go on the bottom. Don't make the mistake I made last time. We don't know our new volume yet, but we do know that our scale factor has to be cubed. So 2 cubed is 8. And then you can cross multiply. 1 times x is x. 450 times 8 is something. 3,600. So our new volume would be 3,600 feet cubed. A prism with a base area of 5 feet squared and a height of 10 feet is dilated by a scale factor of 6/5. What is the volume of the dilated prism? All right, so we want to know the volume of the prism. So I already know that I'm going to take my scale factor and I'm going to cube it because I'm dealing with volume. It doesn't give me the volume of the original prism, it just gives me this information. So before I can plug it into my formula down here, I need to know the volume. I need to figure that out. So I'm going to go ahead and multiply. So when I multiply to get volume, I'm going to do area of the base times the height. So for my volume down here, my area of the base is 5, my height is 10. So my volume equals 50 feet cubed. Now that I have my pre-image volume, I can plug it into my formula. Pre-image, we don't know the image, and we know it has to equal 6/5 cubed. So I think the easiest way to deal with 6/5 to the third power is to multiply to raise each of those to the third power. So I would set this up as 6 to the third power over 5 to the third power. And then I would multiply each of those out. So 6 raised to the third power is 216. And 5 raised to the third power is 125. Now remember, if you can't remember that, you don't have to. You just type it in your calculator. Use that up arrow. And so then, well, let me show you the calculator real quick, just in case. So 6 and then up arrow raised to the third would give you 216. And if you're using a computer calculator, then you would do 6 and then this button raised to the third. Okay, so now that we've typed it in our calculator, let's go ahead and finish solving. We're going to cross multiply. 125 times x is 125x. And 216 times 50 is 10,800. Then solve for x, so we divide each side by 125. And I got that x equals 86.4 feet cubed. All right, let's do the last quiz question. A prism with a volume of 360 yards cubed is scaled down to a volume of 45 yards cubed. What is the scale factor? So this one is worded just a little bit different, gives us different information. But we still know that we're dealing with volume, so we know we're going to do units cubed, which means I know my scale factor is going to have to be cubed when I plug it into my formula. So we start with 360 and we scale it down to 45. That means 360 is my pre-image and 45 is my image. So the pre-image goes on the bottom, the image goes on top, and that has to equal the scale factor cubed. A long time ago we learned that the scale factor is usually the letter K, so I'm going to go ahead and let it be K. You could let it be X, it's not a big deal. Alright, so I'm trying to solve for K, which means I need to get rid of a cube. To get rid of a cube, you need to take the cube root of each side. Because cube and cube roots cancel, leaving you with just K. And then you need to figure out the cube root of this side. So this is pretty much just a calculator problem. If you have this one calculator that I love, you can type in 3, and then the cube root, and then you can hit the fraction button, and do 45 over 360. And that'll give you your answer. Your scale factor is 1/2. If you have a computer calculator, you can still get there. It's just not quite as pretty. There we go. So for the computer calculator, you would first want to do 45 divided by 360. So 45 divided by 360 equals. And then you would want to take the cube root of 0.125. So 3. Oh, where's the cube root button? I just forgot. Hang on. Okay, so the reason I couldn't find the cube root button is because my calculator wasn't expanded to the full screen. So make sure that if you're using the computer calculator, you go ahead and expand it. And when I divided, I got 0.125. And then I want to take the cube root of that. So this is like the root that you can pick any root you want. So I'm going to put the root button and then hit 3. And that tells you that it is 0.5. So either way we do it, we get either the scale factor is 1/2 or the scale factor is 0.5. And it says to enter your answer as a decimal or a fraction. So I think either of those will be fine in the OHS. So just whichever one you prefer to type in. And that's it for this quiz. Good luck!